Picture this. It's 3 a.m. The house is quiet. The world is asleep. But your mind? Your mind is running a marathon at a dead sprint. You're staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation, every mistake, every what-if scenario from the last 10 years. And there is this one nagging question that just won't leave you alone. Why do you feel so stuck, even when you know exactly what you need to do? It's frustrating, isn't it? You have the plan, you have the desire, you might even have the color-coded calendar. But when it comes time to actually move, you freeze. And then the anxiety sets in. It feels like life is just happening to you, like you're a passenger in a car with no driver, careening down the highway while you just watch through the window.
You feel like you're working harder than ever, but you aren't going anywhere. It's the classic hamster wheel. You're exhausted from all the running. Your legs are burning. You're sweating through the grind. But when you stop to look around, the scenery hasn't changed one bit. You're in the exact same spot you were in when you started. Now, most people beat themselves up over this. They call it laziness. They call it a lack of discipline. They think if they just drank more coffee or woke up an hour earlier, the wheel would finally go somewhere.
But what if I told you that effort isn't the problem? You aren't broken, and you certainly aren't lazy. The reality is, you just don't understand how your own brain actually works. You see, we tend to think our minds are designed to make us happy, or successful, or fulfilled. But they aren't. Your brain is designed for one thing only: survival. It craves safety. It craves familiarity. And sometimes, staying stuck on that hamster wheel feels safer to your subconscious mind than stepping off into the unknown, even if the unknown is where your happiness lives. Welcome to The Last Read, Books for Your Ears, Wisdom for Your Life. If the hamster wheel we just described feels uncomfortably familiar, you are in the right place. The book we are decoding today is 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think. Think of it not as a typical self-help book, but as the user manual for your subconscious mind that you were never given at birth. Throughout this episode, we are going to dissect why you self-sabotage the moment things start going well, a phenomenon often called the upper limit problem. We will uncover why you might be psychologically addicted to struggle simply because your brain views peace as boring or even dangerous. We are going to look at why you keep recreating the past, not because you like it, but because it is the only thing your brain actually knows.
Do not let these insights slip by you. Hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss the path to clarity. For those of you who want to highlight these pages yourself, the link of Hardbook is at the description. Now, before we start rewiring your thoughts, we need to understand the source of this wisdom. It didn't come from a scientist in a lab coat or a guru meditating on a mountaintop.
She is a writer, simply a writer, who found wisdom through her own struggle with questions of purpose and pain. Brianna Wiest, the author behind this phenomenon, did not start with a PhD or a tenure at a prestigious university. Her journey began in the digital trenches of Thought Catalog, where she wrote thousands of articles, refining her voice in real time. She became a quiet force for a generation often paralyzed by anxiety, burnout, and the crushing weight of potential, the so-called millennial condition.
But what makes her work resonate so deeply isn't just her ability to articulate these vague, heavy feelings. It's her intent. Wiest has openly shared that she didn't write these essays to preach to the masses. She wrote them to heal herself. She has described her work as a series of letters to her younger self, the words she desperately needed to hear when she was in the thick of her own battle with anxiety and OCD. She isn't standing on a podium looking down at you. She is sitting right beside you, figuring it out page by page. And because she was writing to save herself, she had to dig deeper than surface-level affirmations. She had to ask why. Why do we stay stuck? Why do we choose pain over peace? And that line of questioning led her to a concept that explains so much of our inexplicable behavior, a concept that might just reveal why you panic the moment your life finally starts to go right. She calls this the upper limit problem. It's a concept originally coined by Gay Hendricks, but Wiest breaks it down in a way that feels uncomfortably personal. The idea is that we each have an internal thermometer for how much happiness, success, or love we allow ourselves to feel. We think we want to be happy, but our nervous systems are actually wired for familiarity. So when things start going too well, when we exceed that internal setting, we panic. We hit our upper limit. Think about it. You finally get that promotion you've been working toward for years, but instead of celebrating, you spend the entire drive home convinced that you're unqualified, that you've tricked everyone, and that it's only a matter of time before they find you out. That is your upper limit kicking in. The joy feels dangerous, so your brain manufactures imposter syndrome to bring you back down to a state of anxiety, because anxiety feels like home. Or consider a new relationship. Everything is going perfectly. They are kind, consistent, available. But then, on a random Tuesday, you pick a fight over the dishes, or you convince yourself they're losing interest. You create chaos where there was peace. Why? Because the peace felt foreign, the conflict felt safe. Wiest argues that we self-sabotage not because we want to destroy our lives, but to return to a baseline of familiar misery.
It is exactly like a thermostat in your home. If your thermostat is set to 70 degrees, let's call that your survival baseline, and the room suddenly warms up to 80 degrees of pure joy, the AC kicks on. It blasts cold air, doubt, fear, conflict, until the temperature drops back down to that comfortable, lukewarm 70. We don't sabotage our happiness because we don't want it. We sabotage it because we aren't programmed to handle the intensity of it. We associate safe with struggle. And once you see this mechanism, you start to understand why it is so impossibly hard to break out of a rut. It's not that you lack the willpower to change. It's that your entire biology is working overtime to keep you exactly where you are.
So, if our biology is designed to keep us at that lukewarm baseline, we have to ask the obvious question: why do we stay there? Why do we choose to stay in a job we hate, a relationship that's drained us, or a routine that bores us to tears? Wiest has a fascinating answer. We choose known unhappiness over unknown happiness. Let that sink in for a second. Your brain actually prefers a misery it recognizes over a joy it hasn't met yet. The unknown is the most terrifying thing to your subconscious. So when you're in a rut, you aren't just stuck. You are actively choosing safety. You're choosing the devil you know. Think about the Sunday scaries. You know that feeling. It hits around 4 p.m. on a Sunday. The creeping anxiety about the week ahead. Wiest argues that this isn't just because you hate your job or because Monday is objectively bad. It's because you are resisting the flow of time.
You are trying to grip onto the freedom of the weekend, refusing to let go, even though the transition is inevitable. We create suffering by resisting the simple fact that things change. We stay in the rut of anxiety because the alternative, accepting the flow, stepping into the structure of the week, feels like a loss of control. And this bleeds right into how we handle work itself. How many times have you called yourself lazy because you procrastinated on a big project? You sit there scrolling your phone, cleaning your apartment, doing literally anything but the work. Wiest flips the script on this completely. She says procrastination has nothing to do with laziness. It is actually a form of emotion regulation.
You aren't avoiding the work. You're avoiding the feeling that the work brings up. Maybe it's the fear that you won't do it perfectly. Maybe it's the fear of judgment. Maybe it's just the heaviness of responsibility. Your brain sees that task as a threat, not to your safety, but to your comfort, and it hits the brakes. It says, hey, if we don't start, we can't fail. We delay action to delay the emotional risk. We stay in the rut because the rut doesn't ask anything of us. But here's the catch. That feeling you're avoiding, that knot in your stomach when you think about the future, or that sharp pang of jealousy when you see someone else succeeding, we usually try to numb that out. We distract ourselves. But what if we didn't? What if that bad feeling wasn't a stop sign, but a map?
If you think about it, a map is useless if you refuse to look at the parts of the terrain you don't like, and that is exactly what we do with our negative emotions. We treat anger, sadness, and jealousy like enemies at the gate. We think that being emotionally intelligent means suppressing these feelings, or developing the discipline to not feel them at all. But Wiest argues that this is backward. She says that your feelings are not facts, they are signals. They are communications from your subconscious. Think of it this way. If you're driving your car and the check engine light comes on, what do? You don't take a hammer and smash the dashboard light so you can't see it anymore. That wouldn't fix the car. It would just guarantee a breakdown on the side of the highway later.
Yet that is precisely what we do when we numb our pain or distract ourselves from our anxiety. We are smashing the light because we don't like what it's telling us. Wiest suggests we need to look under the hood. She frames these negative emotions as essential data points. Take jealousy, for instance. It's an ugly feeling. Nobody wants to admit they feel it. But Wiest says jealousy is actually a very specific guide. It shows you exactly what you want for yourself. You aren't jealous of everyone who is successful. You are only jealous of people who have the specific thing you desire but have been too afraid to pursue. It's not bitterness, it's a mirror.
The same goes for anger. We usually try to push anger down, but she describes anger as a healthy response to a boundary being crossed. It tells you where your limits are. It tells you what you value enough to defend. If you stop fighting these feelings and start listening to them, the map becomes clear. The jealousy points to your next goal. The anger points to where you need more self-respect. The anxiety points to what you need to prepare for. But once you have read the map and you know where you need to go, how do you actually get there? You can't just rely on sudden bursts of inspiration to drive the car. You need a reliable engine. You need a system that keeps moving forward even when you don't feel like it. And that brings us to the difference between being in a rut and having a routine. Because when you look closely, the only difference between a rut and a grave is the depth. There's a famous saying that a rut is just a grave with the ends kicked out. You're stuck, you're stagnant, and you're going nowhere. But a routine? A routine is a launch pad. Wiest argues that we often resist routine because we think it's boring, or we think it kills our freedom. But in the book, she flips that completely. She suggests that routine is actually what creates freedom. It's the safety net that catches you when your willpower runs out. It's the engine that keeps the car moving when you don't have the energy to push it yourself. And this leads to one of the most powerful reframes in the entire book. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is self-love.
We usually think of self-love as bubble baths, or treating ourselves to a nice meal, or taking a mental health day. And sure, that's part of it. But Wiest says real self-love is much more practical, and sometimes much less glamorous. It's parenting yourself. It's doing the dishes tonight, even when you're exhausted, so that your future self, the you who walks into the kitchen tomorrow morning, doesn't have to start the day with a mess. It's cooking a healthy meal so your future self feels good. It's going to bed early so your future self isn't groggy. When you look at it that way, discipline isn't about being strict. It's about being kind to the person you are going to be tomorrow. But how do you actually get yourself to do those things when you just don't want to? Well, Wiest has a reality check for us here too. Motivation is a myth.
We have this backwards idea that we need to feel inspired before we take action. We sit around waiting for lightning to strike, waiting to feel like writing the book or feel like going for the run. But she points out that feelings usually follow action. They don't precede it. You don't wait to feel like it. You do it to feel like it. Action creates momentum. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll be waiting forever. You have to walk yourself through the motions, sometimes mechanically,
until the feeling catches up. You have to fall in love with the ritual of the work, not just the lightning bolt of inspiration. And that is the trap so many of us fall into. We focus so much on the lightning bolt, on the big, shiny outcome, that we miss the point entirely. We think we want the result, but we hate the process required to get there. Which begs the question, do you actually want the life you're chasing? Or do you just like how that life looks in your head?
Which begs the question, do you actually want the life you're chasing? Or do you just like how that life looks in your head? That brings us to a really critical distinction Wiest makes, and it's one of the hardest pills to swallow in the whole book. It is the danger of falling in love with the idea of a life rather than the life itself. It's a subtle difference, but it explains so much of our unhappiness. We see this constantly. People who want the wedding, but they don't actually want the marriage. They want the party, the photos, the validation, but they aren't interested in the Tuesday night compromise or the difficult conversations. Or, to use a creative example, people want the bestseller, but they don't want the writing process. They want the finished book with their name on the spine, but they resist the hours of solitude, the bad drafts, and the tedious editing that it takes to get there.
Wiest puts it perfectly when she says that success is falling in love with the process, not the outcome. She writes, "You can't only focus on writing the synopsis and then wonder why you don't have a book yet. It's about falling in love with the doing, not just the result of the doing. Because if you only love the result, you're going to be miserable 99% of the time. The result is just a moment. The process is your actual life. So you have to ask yourself, do you like the work? Or do you just like the caption you can post about the work? Are you doing it for the internal fulfillment or for the external applause?"
Wiest suggests that many of us are living for that picture-perfect image, and it's actually keeping us from living our real lives. We are so busy trying to curate an existence that looks good to others that we build a cage for ourselves. Letting go of that picture-perfect ideal is the first step to actually enjoying your reality. You have to stop trying to be the person who has made it and start being the person who is making it day in and out. And once you let go of that heavy expectation, once you stop obsessing over the grand final reveal, you can finally look at what is right in front of you. You can stop worrying about the destination and start looking at how you spend your actual days. Because ultimately, your life isn't the vacation you take once a year or the diploma on the wall.
It is, quite literally, how you spend your Tuesday mornings. Think about it. We spend so much of our mental energy fantasizing about the 2 weeks of vacation we get a year, or that future moment when we finally get the promotion, that we completely neglect the mundane reality of the other 50 weeks. But Wiest hits us with a hard truth here. If you are miserable on a regular Tuesday, you are miserable in your life. Because life isn't the highlight reel. It's the outtakes. It's the commute. It's making coffee. It's the daily grind. And this brings us to the power of routine. Now, in the US especially, we have this cultural resistance to routine. We think it's boring. We think it kills creativity. We think it's a cage. But Wiest flips this completely. She writes that routine is actually the pathway to flow. When you regulate your daily actions, you deactivate your fight or flight instincts because you are no longer confronting the unknown every single time you wake up. You are making your subconscious feel safe.
And when your subconscious is safe, you are free to actually live. So, how do we fix a broken Tuesday? You don't do it by burning your life down and moving to Bali. You do it with micro habits. Wiest suggests that you are not just building a schedule, you are building a mindset. As she puts it, your habits create your mood, and your mood is a filter through which you experience your life. If you wake up and immediately scroll through social media, you are filtering your day through comparison and noise. But if you shift that just a little, maybe it's making your bed the moment you stand up, just to prove to yourself that you keep promises to yourself. Maybe it's drinking a full glass of water before you touch coffee. Maybe it's 10 minutes of reading instead of 10 minutes of doom scrolling.
These sound insignificant, almost too easy, but that is the point. Imagine a ship leaving a port. If you shift the rudder by just 1 single degree, in the short term, it looks like nothing changed. You can barely see the difference. But over the course of an entire ocean, that 1 degree is the difference between landing in New York or landing in London. Small pivots change the trajectory of the ship. You don't need to overhaul your entire existence overnight. You just need to change the way you navigate your Tuesday morning. And once you reclaim your Tuesday, you reclaim the rest of the week. And honestly, that is what this whole journey has been about. Not the grand gestures, but the quiet shifts in perspective that change everything. Which brings us to the final question. Now that we have all these tools, how do we actually ensure we don't just forget them by next week?
It's a valid fear. We've all been there, reading something profound, feeling that spark of motivation, and then Monday happens. The routine swallows us whole, and the wisdom fades into the background noise of life. But that's exactly why we spend so much time on the concept of routine earlier. Often, the mountain standing in our way is actually just a mirror. We learn that we don't self-sabotage because we love to suffer, but because we love being comfortable, even if that comfort is toxic.
We talked about the utility of pain, how we shouldn't just run from discomfort, but listen to it. Brianna Wiest puts it perfectly. The universe whispers until it screams. Those uncomfortable feelings, they aren't punishments, they're signals. They're just information telling you that something is out of alignment. And of course, we talked about the power of routine. Not routine as a boring, rigid schedule, but routine as a safety net for your subconscious. It's about building a Tuesday morning that supports the person you want to become, rather than the person you're trying to leave behind. It's a lot to digest. And honestly, you aren't meant to digest it all in one sitting. That's what the last read is here for, to help you break down these dense, heavy truths into something you can actually carry with you. If you found value in this deep dive, if these last 10 segments have shifted your rudder even a single degree, please consider subscribing. It helps us keep the lights on and the books open.
And for those of you who want to underline these passages yourself, which I highly recommend, because this is a book you will return to differently at every stage of your life, remind yourself again, the link of hard book is at the description. So, take a breath. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when you realize how much internal work there is to do. It's easy to feel like you've been standing still for too long. But remember, stillness is not the same as stagnation. You haven't been wasting time, you've been gathering data. You've been learning what you don't want so you can clearly choose what you do want. As we close the cover on this journey, carry this final thought with you. You are not stuck, you are just pausing. Now, press play on your life.